Today we're going to take a look at the Neural DSP Quad Cortex and Nano Cortex. What's cool about each and why you just might want to have both. The Quad Cortex and the Nano Cortex are both groundbreaking products. When the Quad Cortex came out, it really set a new standard for being able to capture the sound of amplifiers, overdrives, boosts, and those sorts of things, put them into a multi-effects processor that you could take anywhere without having to have the original equipment with you. You can take this on stage, into the studio, for rehearsal, for practicing. It's a great solution, as we'll see, for a lot of different applications. The more recent, younger sibling of the Quad Cortex is the Nano Cortex. Obviously much more compact, but a lot of the same sonic power from the Quad Cortex is available here in the Nano Cortex. So let's talk a little bit about each one and why it just might make sense for you to have both of them in your arsenal, because it can provide even more capability for you to have both. The Quad Cortex is going to be perfect for you if you need maximum sonic power for your guitar tones. And in fact, it can provide capabilities for vocals, for bass, for keyboards. It has 4 inputs. You can run multiple streams simultaneously. It's got this beautiful touch screen, and that allows for everything from programming to being able to set up your inputs and outputs, to being able to set up different modes. For example, we could go to stomp mode and see what we have available there on our foot switches and so on. We've got these multiple foot switches here for bringing effects in and out, for changing presets, for changing scenes. You've got tap tempo. You've got a mode switch here, banking controls, and so on. Tons of I/O. So if you want to incorporate external pedals or effects into this, you have loops for doing that. You've got multiple sets of outputs on XLR on 1/4 inch. So again, you've got maximum power here for creating the tones you need for live and for studio. With the Nano Cortex, we have obviously a much more compact, lightweight version of some of the things that are going on inside the Quad Cortex. We can have up to 4 different presets here, 2 on each foot switch. You can have chains of effects, you can have captures, and you can do captures with this as well, just like you can with the Quad Cortex. We've got a single guitar in, stereo outputs, we've got USB connectivity, and in fact, I'm hooked up to my iPad by USB right now. The iPad is providing power for the Nano Cortex because it runs off 5 volts, and it can also serve as an audio interface here. You can use the Quad Cortex in the same way, of course, as an audio interface for your computer or your device. But the Nano Cortex is much simpler in its design and operation. There's no screen here. You reach down, you grab the knob. You have encoders on each of the foot switches for changing things, and again, you have 4 presets available. And a big difference is this comes in at about 1/3 the price of the Quad Cortex. So if budget is your main consideration, Nano Cortex is going to be a great choice for you. If you have a little bit bigger budget, the Quad Cortex is going to be a great choice. But why would you possibly want to have both of these? Let's look at some reasons. A key point to keep in mind here is we can have the same captures in both of these. So if you've captured your own amplifier collection in your Quad Cortex, you can have those same captures in your Nano Cortex as well. So you can create very similar sounding, if not the exact same sounding, presets between these two. And that makes the Nano Cortex a great backup for your Quad Cortex. So if you're on tour, you need a backup, you could take a second Quad Cortex, or you could have a Nano Cortex in your gig bag. If something happens, you've always got that ready, accessible, lightweight, compact, and very similar power to what's in the Quad Cortex in a much smaller form factor. Now for many of us, the Quad Cortex can actually serve as a home studio hub, Because it can serve as an audio interface, you could plug microphones in. In fact, there are 2 microphone preamps here, so you could even record acoustic guitar with this. You could record vocals with it, run your guitar in, your bass, your keyboards, the XLR outputs to drive your monitors, and so on. You really could use this as the main hub for your home studio, and in that case, it's nice to leave it wired in, not have to disconnect everything and take it out if you want to go do a gig or do a rehearsal. So having a Nano Cortex makes a great second rig in that situation. Leave the Quad Cortex wired up in your studio and keep the Nano Cortex in your gig bag for easy grab it and go. Both the Quad Cortex and the Nano Cortex can make a great writing rig, a great practice rig, but the Nano Cortex is particularly compelling if you're on the go. I often will take what I call a writing retreat. Well, I'll go overnight to a hotel and just write music overnight. I have taken my Quad Cortex, but it's a heck of a lot easier to just throw the Nano Cortex into a bag and take it with me. I still get the headphone output, I still get my guitar input, and I can even use it just with my iPad, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if you're like me and you use tube amplifiers live, it's nice to have a backup with you in case something should happen. The Quad Cortex, of course, makes a great backup, as does the Nano Cortex. But the Nano Cortex quite a bit smaller, so I like to have this in my gig bag as my backup in that situation. Here's one you might want to think about. Because we can capture things so easily with both the Quad Cortex and the Nano Cortex and share the captures between those, why not set up your Nano Cortex as 4 drive pedals? So capture 4 different overdrive pedals or 4 different overdrive pedal settings, and then you've got access to those 4 presets with the 2 foot switches. You could use that with your Nano Cortex as an auxiliary processor, or use it on a pedal board as a replacement for 4 separate overdrive pedals. In the same way, it can act as additional effects processing along with your Quad Cortex or on a pedal board. Use it for delays, use it for chorus, use it for reverb, and dedicate it to those applications, and again, set up presets where you can switch among 4 different settings. So the 2 can work together, put this into one of the loops or route through it, and you can really add a lot of power to your Quad Cortex as well. Now what I've done is build a pedal board around each. So I've got a larger pedal board with my Quad Cortex where I have a couple of my favorite pedals in the loops. I've got a wireless there, I've got a separate tuner, and so on, and I'm actually powering that with a Walrus Canvas HP, which is a great solution because it has enough output power to drive the Quad Cortex. But that's going to be a larger pedal board. When I want a smaller pedal board for grab it and go, just something I can take with me to a quick rehearsal, for example, the Nano Cortex makes a great choice. Has a built-in tuner, or you could use a clip-on tuner, and it's about the smallest you can get and still have a fully processed signal chain, whether you're running into an amplifier and just using this for effects, or if you're using this as your complete signal chain direct into the PA. On a big stage, you have as much room as you want. Quad Cortex makes a great choice because you can spread out and set up other pedals and things around it. Plenty of room to do that. But if, like me, you've played on some really tiny stages in your day, then the Nano Cortex becomes a great solution because it takes up no room. It really doesn't take up any more room than your foot does on the stage. And so having this for those compact situations where things are really tight is a great solution. And finally, based on the cost of these 2 units, there are some gigs where I really don't want to take the Quad Cortex. I'm worried about someone spilling a beverage into it or kicking it or stepping on it. We've got that touch screen and so on, and it just costs more, so I worry a little bit more about it. With the Nano Cortex, of course, I still wouldn't want anything to happen to it, but it's a third the price, so I'm a little more comfortable taking this into certain situations where I might hesitate to take the Quad Cortex. So I hope that gives you some ideas of ways you can use the Quad Cortex and the Nano Cortex and ways in which it makes sense to have both of them. Take the one that's right for the application. For complete information on the Quad Cortex or the Nano Cortex, head over to sweetwater.com, or better yet, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. They'll be happy to fill you in.